Well, hey there, everybody. Greetings and salutations, and welcome to the return. It's been a while. It's been a couple of minutes, but welcome to the return of the weekly hero, the weekly show here on the John Campea Show, now that we're back, where we highlight and revisit all the biggest stuff that came out in the worlds of comic book movies and TV shows and all sorts of good stuff. And of course, good stuff, Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett is here.
Well,
Robert,
John,
can you hear me all right?
I can hear you all right. It's very exciting to be back here. You know, I was just contemplating the fact that when Disney Plus goes live, I can watch The Cat from Outer Space as many times as I want. And I know you'll be lining up because you love cats.
Yeah, me. I'm the big cat guy. I just love cats.
Yeah, I know how much you love them.
Of course, the great Ron Swanson, cats are useless. But there we go. It's good to have everybody back here with us here today, as we've got a whole bunch of things that we need to talk about. We're going to get to. We're going to cover over a few of the big issues from this week, and then we're going to go over and take your questions, guys, and hear what you guys have to say about all the stuff that we're talking about here, and we will go from there. All right. First item up for business here, ladies and gentlemen, is, of course, this week and over the past number of days, the Cw Arrowverse has returned. It's back. We got Arrow and Flash and Black Lightning. I think Supergirl started up now. I'm not really sure.
Oh, it has.
It has? Supergirl started up again? Not that I care. But Rob, have you had? Last time you and I chatted, you hadn't had a chance to get caught up on any of the new stuff this season. Have you yet?
Well, no, I did see the Flash premiere. And because they use, you know, your favorite movie, Flash Gordon, they brought back the Queen song.
That's right,
from Flash Gordon.
Yeah, as Flash is doing, it's like, wow, I'm actually surprised it took them this long to do this.
Yeah,
because really, when you think about it, it makes perfect sense.
Absolutely, and it was interesting. I was just reading to you an article about how apparently people thought that the Supergirl show, the Supergirl premiere, and the Flash premiere were both about black holes, and that it was planned, but it wasn't. It was totally coincidental, according to my friend, Flash showrunner Eric Wallace. So the black holes in Supergirl and the black holes in the Flash, totally coincidental.
Totally
for their season opener. But you know, John, I don't know if you're like me, but come on, how excited are we? Just the bananas. I feel like we have to all watch the CW shows, if only in solidarity for the wackiness that they're cooking up for their Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover. And it is going to be every day something crazy's happening there.
They're throwing the kitchen sink at it. Like, honestly, I've given up any hope that it's going to be an interesting, deep story, and all. I've given up any hope of that. It's going to be wacky, bonkers. Let's just throw everything in the kitchen sink at it and just have a lot of fun with it. And I'm good with that. But
I think it could be dope, dude. I'm excited. I mean, you know, like you said, kitchen sink. You can find a lot of interesting things in the kitchen, and I hope this is going to blow me away. I'm really excited.
But here's the one thing they're doing. Now, I have not had a chance to start watching Black Lightning yet. I've watched the season premiere of Arrow, and I've seen the 2 episodes of Flash that have been on.
Have you seen Batwoman yet?
And I saw episode 1 of Batwoman. I haven't seen episode 2 yet, but I did see episode 1. Here's something interesting that they're doing, at least with Flash and Arrow, that I don't recall them really doing in other seasons. See, now in the other seasons, Flash has its series, Arrow has its series, and then, you know, they come to the mid-season crossover event and they make up something that comes up. It's like, oh, now we need to cross over. What is really interesting about this season so far with Arrow and the Flash is that they are both, right from episode 1, delving into the crossover event.
Right.
Monitor is showing up in both of them. They're all talking. It's like everything this season is building up to Crisis. And that's not really, well, they've dropped hints now and again. That's really not something they've done with the CW with their crossover events before, where they've literally made like every episode. Now, I don't think Batwoman's following that because it's Batwoman's first season. They got to let Batwoman get established in her own thing. And I haven't seen the Supergirl show, nor will I. But as far as Flash, and I don't know what they're doing with Black Lightning either, because I haven't started yet. I got to get on board with Black Lightning because I love that show. But at least with these 2 things, it's really neat that they seem to be tying in these stories right from episode 1 of the new seasons. And that's not something I've seen them do before. So, you know, I'm saying I've given up any hope that they have any depth to this thing. But by starting the season with the storyline, that might suggest that maybe they've given more thought to this than I thought, Rob. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I do, actually, because, when the Crisis was originally depicted, my God, John, so long ago, in DC Comics in the mid-'80s, the Monitor was a recurring character for, I think, over a year in various DC comic books before it was revealed, like, what was going on. He was a character that was created, and we slowly learned about him. Now, we learned about the Monitor already in the CW, in the Arrowverse.
Right.
So they're bringing him back. But the fact that they're making him a part of what's to come, because they kind of teased that at the end of last year's crossover. So it's really exciting that they're doing this, and it shows the foresight. I think it's going to be cool, even though they keep adding new people to put in. I think that's just kind of the icing. I think they've probably thought through the story they're going to tell pretty thoroughly, because obviously they teased it last year, so they've had a while to think about it. So I'm expecting big things.
Well, I'm going to keep my fingers crossed for it, and hopefully by next week I'll be caught up on all the shows. Like I said, I'm caught up on Green Arrow. I'm caught up on Flash. And by the way, let me talk about Green Arrow for a second. Green Arrow is a show that has been very hit and miss for me. The first couple of seasons, I went bananas for that show.
Yeah.
Loved the first few seasons. And then they got into the Captain Buckles thing with Laurel Lance, and it lost me. And then they showed signs of were coming back, and then they fell off the cliff again. So I wasn't even 100% positive I was going to watch this season. I'll tell you what, the season premiere of Arrow was really good. It was really good. It goes right back to year one. And I don't know if you remember, I don't know if you saw this in the preview, Rob, but in the opening of season one, as Oliver is getting himself, as the episode one starts, and Oliver is getting himself rescued off the island, you see the Deathstroke mask on a pike, right, on the beach.
Yeah.
They replay that scene now, except it's not Deathstroke's mask on a pike. It's the Batman cowl on a pike. And I'm like, oh. And they really did. No, but the one thing I'll say about Arrow, though, and I liked it a lot, but the one thing they have continued to do this season that they started last season that sucks,
right,
is their flash forward stuff. Because, Arrow was always flashing back to his time. Eventually, though, there were enough seasons of Arrow that it caught up with how many flashbacks you could have.
Right.
So their brilliant idea was to do these flash forwards with Oliver's kids. It's awful. It sucks. Like, it's really, really terrible, which is really unfortunate because all the other stuff in Arrow, at least from the season premiere, was really quite good. And I haven't felt that good about, like, outside of the crossover, I haven't felt that good about an Arrow episode in a while. And so it was good to see, but then every time he gets, this is really good. And, oh my God, we're fast forwarding to his stupid fucking kids again, who are both lame and they both suck. It's just really unfortunate because the show would get some momentum and all of a sudden it would like just be completely derailed. It was like, but whatever. It is what it is. All right, guys, listen. That's that. Let's move on to the next item here. And the next item is a little bit of speculation, but of course, they announced this week that Zoe Kravitz has been cast as Catwoman. And, I'm very excited about that casting. She would have been my first choice per se, but she's one of the good choices. She's evolved into a really good little actress. She's got a great look for it as well. I think this could have a lot of possibilities. But Rob, when we sit back and look at what is evolving here, we got Matt Reeves directing Batman. He went out and got a controversial pick, yes, for some people, but for other people who knew, he went out and got what we know is one of the best actors of his generation right now, and that's Robert Pattinson.
Yeah.
Who is just tearing it up with every film he appears in. He is money.
And we can't wait.
Money.
The Lighthouse, dude. I'm so excited and what we've heard about that opening this weekend.
Can't wait to see that. Then he's going to be in Christopher Nolan's new film and all this kind of stuff. Dynamite. Now we've added this. He's added tons of, he's got a great crew that he's been assembling back there as well. They've been taking a lot of time. So I've had some people coming up now and asking me on social media and stuff like that. It's like, we all just assumed that this movie wouldn't be great. We were just hoping that Matt Reeves could give us something good. And I thought about that when this person said that to me. And I was going to object, but then I stopped myself. I thought, you know what? There's some truth to that. Like when really over the past year, as you surveyed the fandom, even the more positive talk, it's really been about, well, look, it'll never be like the Christopher Nolan Batman films, but let's just hope it's good. I'm starting to wonder when I see them making really bold choices before they even start shooting. I'm starting to wonder, maybe we're setting our hopes too low. Maybe hoping that this is just at least a good movie. Maybe we're selling it short. And so, Rob, I wanted to ask you, whenever we talk about the upcoming Batman movie, most conversations start with, okay, yeah, we know it's not going to be as good as Nolan's. We know it's not going to be that, but it can still be good. But are we selling it short?
Dude,
I'm not saying we should expect it to be as good as Nolan's, but shouldn't maybe we consider the possibility that the way they're making decisions, the way this is coming together, that, you know what, maybe the sky is the limit. Maybe this is a movie. And of course, we're saying maybe this could get into the Christopher Nolan level of quality kind of Batman film. How are you feeling about it?
Well, look at this picture that you have up right now. I mean, how smoldering and sexy is that? And I'm thinking, you know, if first of all, Matt Reeves, I have to tell you that I was dubious about the Planet of the Apes trilogy because I love the original Planet of the Apes so much. And I saw Rise of the Planet of the Apes and I was like, wow, I really like Rise of the Planet of the Apes. It might be my favorite of the three. But when Matt Reeves came on board and did Dawn and War, those films are astonishing achievements in fantasy filmmaking. The performances, the motion capture performances, the way they were able to do the apes, the way they were able to envision this I guess you could say post-apocalypse. It's more overgrown, you know, but the way they were able to do what he was able to do. I mean, here's a guy who really understands how to make genre movies. And I think obviously we've had other things from him. He's been writing for a while, and I think we're going to get something nowhere near Christopher Nolan's movies in terms of tone. We're going to get something totally different. But I think what we're going to get is going to be equally awesome. Now, I'm not saying is it going to hit the heights that The Dark Knight hit. That's going to be a tall order. However, I think stuff that's at least equal to Batman Begins and probably definitely as good as Dark Knight Rises, we're going to get something of great quality. We're not going to get Batman and Robin. You know, we're going to get something special from a filmmaker that has really been honing his craft on very difficult movies. I mean, if he's able to make you feel for CG apes, imagine what he's going to be able to make you feel for real characters. I mean, I just want to see that still that you had up with Zoe Kravitz and Pattinson. I mean, that is some smoldering. That might be the greatest smoldering superhero couple ever. And
it does look like they wouldn't have ugly kids.
No, and I think that it's going to be different. It's definitely going to be different from Affleck's Batman, but I think we're going to get something, and it should be different. We're going to get something unique, and I'm excited. I'm really excited. They've certainly taken long enough for this project to gestate. I'm hoping the script is terrific because they've had a lot of time to work on it. I think we should be very excited, John.
And by the way, the addition of Jeffrey Wright is just like, I think that dude is one of the most underrated, it's like one of the absolute treasures of this business. I'm excited about it. And you know what? Maybe I've been guilty. I might have to admit that maybe I've been guilty about selling this one a little bit short. Maybe the potential is higher than I've been expecting. So we'll have to wait and see. Guys, what do you think about that? Where do you think, have you been like me? Have you been maybe selling the potential for this thing a little bit short? Maybe we should be setting the potential ceiling a little bit higher, maybe even into Nolan realms. What do you guys think about that? Jump down in the comments section and let us know your thoughts. All right, let's go on to our third main topic here. Rob, one of the things that has dominated the not just superhero movie chat, but movie chat the last week or so has been, of course, the war being waged by Martin Scorsese against comic book movies. And I say that because what we've been hearing from Martin Scorsese hasn't just been, a filmmaker voicing his opinion about a genre of film that he doesn't particularly like. He has been now altering it to actively campaigning against the genre and essentially trying to convince people that they shouldn't be watching these movies and trying to tell movie theaters they shouldn't be showing as many comic book movies and blah, 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 and all this kind of thing. A guy, and it's important to understand that, when somebody like a Jodie Foster comes along, Rob, and makes some comments, she doesn't like comic book movies. We get upset about that for a day and we move past it because whatever. At the end of the day, it was just an actress expressing her opinion, whether we like it or not. When Handsome Hawk, when Hudson Hawk makes Hudson Hawk, when Ethan Hawke, Hudson Hawk, when Ethan Hawke, comes out and makes, I think comic book movies stink. All right, whatever. We get upset about it for a day and then we move on because ultimately at the end of the day, it's just an actor expressing his opinion about something that doesn't happen to match ours.
Sure.
When Scorsese came out and said that comic book movies aren't really cinema, I partially defended it. Like, I don't like the way he's putting that, but I see what he's saying. High art is not abounding in a lot of comic book movies. Comic book movies for the most part, even the great ones, a lot of them have just been pure spectacle more than anything else. And that's great. And we love them and I eat them up and they're fantastic. But there have been movies that transcend the genre. And we have seen this growing more and more. So I got where Martin was coming from, even if I didn't quite appreciate the way he put it. But then he came out, of course, earlier this week and made those comments about saying we're being invaded by these comic book movies, implying that they have no place here and they're not welcome here and we don't want them here. They're invading us. Urging movie theaters to, make room for other types of movies. Here's an interesting thing, Rob. I did some counting. This month, 34 movies are coming out in at least moderate release.
Right.
In at least moderate release, 34 movies are coming out this month. 34. Do you know how many of them are comic book related movies?
I would say one.
One. There's one. There's one. Oh, there's no room in our theaters anymore for anything other than comic book movies. We can't make any movies anymore than the comic book movies. There's 34 fucking movies coming out this month. One of them is a comic book movie. There will be some months where you might get two. It's not often, but there are going to be, we could come across a couple months where you might actually get two.
Sure.
Out of the 20, 30 plus films that come out and get released. Rob, I've been scratching my head about this as we've had a few days now to think about this Martin Scorsese's war and this war he's been waging on the comic book movies and stuff like that. And I keep coming back to something that I mentioned to you before, kind of in passing, but the more I think about it, the more I'm starting to think this. I think Martin Scorsese, Academy Award winner Martin Scorsese, for the first time probably in decades, has been hearing studios say the word no to him.
Mm-hmm. Well, for sure. I mean, we know that for sure for The Irishman, that he was told no. And this is the guy who made Kundun and Silence.
Yeah. Well, and I like Silence,
and The Last
by the way.
Temptation of Christ. I did too. I own Silence. Would you be surprised? I think over under 60% I own it on
I would not be surprised at all. I thought that movie was great. He makes great movies.
Yeah.
But I think he has not liked the fact that he has started to hear the word no be said to him, and he's looking for a scapegoat. Because I'll tell you why they told him no on Irishman. They told him no on Irishman because it was going to be a bloody expensive movie to make. And the fact of the matter is, it's not a movie that was going to make $400 million at the box. You can't make a movie that requires $400 million to break even and then expect a studio to greenlight it when they don't believe it can make $400 million at the box office. They're not only looking for movies that can make $400 million, but if you want to make a movie at the price tag that's going to take $400 or $500 million just to break even, you got to make a business case and prove to them enough people will come out to break this even. And let's face it, The Irishman looks awesome, but it wasn't going to get $400 million worth of people out to see it in the theaters. And I think instead of just accepting that fact and again, I'm speculating here, just to be fair. I feel like Martin Scorsese has been looking for a scapegoat for why studios are telling him suddenly no. When the fact of the matter is, Rob, even if comic book movies did not exist today,
right,
no movie studio is going to greenlight a $165 million movie that they think is only going to make $250 million at the box office. No studio is going to do that regardless, Rob. So,
no, look, I think you're absolutely right about that, 100%. But, on the other hand, I think, I went back, the first comments he made I thought was a little, well, okay. But somebody said on my show today that they were saying that he made he answered a question for 4 minutes, and only at the end of the question did he address the Marvel situation when he mentioned he used the word invasion and things like that. And what he was talking about too, which I thought was interesting, and no one's brought this up, is that Scorsese was talking about the fact that long form storytelling on streaming, things like Ozark or a lot of these multiple episode streaming shows and the Marvel Cinematic Universe are not real cinema because they are ongoing stories. They're not television per se, but they're something new. And he didn't know quite what all of that necessarily meant. And it sounds to me like what you said. I think you're absolutely correct that the kinds of movies studios are making now, by definition of how much they cost, they can't take the chances they used to. So the only movies that they can make, being risk averse, are these blockbuster, or as he put it, what did he call them? Amusement park films?
He called them amusement parks. He called them theme parks, he called them circuses.
Yeah, theme parks and circuses. There's spectacle. And the idea, like somebody pointed out, I was reading something today too about, it wasn't him, but that a movie like Goodfellas would never have been made today. And with a guy like Martin Scorsese, who's had so much success, whether he made Color of Money, whether he made Taxi Driver, whether he made Goodfellas or Casino, that these are films that he couldn't get made. And I think that you're absolutely right. And I think he's sort of lamenting the fact that the movies that are gobbling up all this box office, I mean, whoever thought we'd live in a world where we would have Avengers Endgame making more money than any other movie in history? I can't believe it. And for a guy like Scorsese, he's like, I don't even understand these movies. I've never even seen any of them. And who knows why that is? I mean, it's crazy.
But it comes back to this, though. Like when he says things like, today, Goodfellas couldn't have been made. Yeah, it would have. Let's just go back last year. All right, let's just go back last year, 2018.
Sure.
First Man got made. First Man is not a spectacle, circus, whatever kind of movie. First Man got made. You know what else got made? Can You Ever Forgive Me? Got made. Can You Ever Forgive Me? Got made. A
movie I loved so much.
Widows.
Yeah.
Widows got made last year. A Star Is Born got made last year.
You're absolutely right.
Even if you want to go to animated, and did well. You go to another, like a little animated movie like Isle of Dogs, which is a really different. It didn't do great,
but these are all fine examples of the kinds of cinema that's being done. Very vibrant, very different movies, tourist movies. I mean, Isle of Dogs is who would have thought that movie would have gotten made?
Vice. If Beale Street Could Talk, these Black Klansman, Tully got made. The type of cinema that people like Scorsese are saying, these films can't get made anymore.
Yeah.
Am I missing something? It looks to me like they're being made.
Yeah.
And it looks to me like they're getting attention. And yes, and I said this about the Jennifer Aniston thing, and I think it's completely true here. Martin Scorsese right now seems to have the attitude of a jilted lover. One
second, my door, the dogs shut the door. The wind blew their door shut and they couldn't get by.
But it reminds me of the guy who, some dude who's in love with the hottest girl at work. But the hottest girl at work has got a boyfriend. And he thinks, man, if only that guy wasn't here, then she'd go out with me. And that's what Scorsese is coming across. Like, man, if comic book movies weren't here, all the audiences would be flocking to my movie. And the reality is, no, she probably wouldn't go out with you anyway.
But it's funny. Don't you feel though that here he's making that by all accounts, he's made his masterpiece, a 3.5-hour movie. Yeah. That by all accounts is amazing. He's pioneered de-aging technology. So technology that has been refined in comic book movies, as we've seen all the way back to Michael Douglas being made a young man. It's ironic. I find it weird that he would even say this because he's benefiting from Netflix. They're putting it in the theater. He's got the best of all worlds. He made a movie that the studios wouldn't make. And I would think it's an epic win for the guy.
Well, they're sort of putting it in theater.
Well, yeah, sort
of putting it in theater. But
they made it. I mean, they spent more money than any other movie that they've ever made, and I would think that he would be on a high. And you'd think he'd be like, what's so great about these new streaming shows and these comic book movies is they're fun. Comic book movies have brought audiences en masse to the movie theaters, and like you said, the benefits, it's not like they've been around for a couple of years. We're talking 11 years into the MCU now. And that list you just listed off, what a bunch of interesting movies. And by the way, most of those movies, with a few exceptions, did pretty well. Stars Born's a hit, And
here's the interesting thing, too. You know how many people came to me and said, especially when Endgame was coming out, like when we were down into the final month or two before Endgame, so many people writing into our show saying, I'm getting A-list. I'm going to go get AMC A-list now. So they go get AMC A-list. And since then, they're like, I go to 2 to 3 movies a week now. Like I got the A-list so I could go see, Endgame a bunch of times. But now I'm going to see this movie. I'm going to see this movie. I'm going to see this movie. Going to tons of movies they wouldn't have otherwise maybe gone to see. Why? Because the comic book movie got people into the theaters in an era right now when the theaters are having a hard time getting people into the theaters.
Right.
And I feel like Martin's just a little butthurt. And again, if he had just come out and said, you know what? I hate comic book movies. I think they stink. Fine. Then we would have gone, oh, come on, Marty. And we would have been over in a day. But he seems to be mounting this campaign. And it's really unfortunate. But we'll see if he changes his tune. Well,
too, what's really interesting to me, John, is we're also seeing, I can't get over the irony that the Joker, which is a film that owes so much to his DNA. I mean, obviously, Taxi Driver and King of Comedy, so much is owed to him. It's burning up the box office charts. It was made for not very much money, and it's something new that actually transcends the comic book genre, the way we've talked about how Logan did, and maybe a little bit the Captain America, the Winter Soldier. It's just ironic for him to be making these comments in this environment, because it's changing, it's evolving. The comic book film itself as a genre has gotten so broad in terms of what it is, and dare I say it, exciting and profitable. Where's the downside?
Yeah, not to mention he's the one who brought it to Warner Brothers with Todd Phillips. I mean, and that's so. There's, I don't know where to go with it. Anyway, guys, hence Scorsese's war continues. What do you think? Do you think he's going to keep talking about this? Do you think he's going to let well enough alone and just forget about it? What do you guys think? Jump in the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, last topic we're going to talk about here, and then we're going to go over and take your live questions. You guys have been sending in a bunch of live questions, and that is this. One of the big question marks, and we just talked about this on the John Campea Show the other day, that's been flying around the world of comic book movie fans is what is going to happen to Deadpool. What's going to happen to Deadpool? Yep. We know Fox got picked up by Disney. All the way back in April, Alan Horn stood on the stage at CinemaCon and made it pretty clear they have plans for Deadpool. Now, at the time, Rob, when we were there at CinemaCon and Alan Horn was talking about how they had plans with Deadpool, they clearly listed Deadpool under the Fox banner.
Yeah.
And it was very clear, like this move, Deadpool's going to get made, and it's going to be made under Fox. Well, 6 months pass and times change. Now they're talking about how Deadpool is now actually going to be under the control of Kevin Feige.
Yeah.
But that is still left us with a couple of questions. Question number 1, is it going to be rated R or PG? And question number 2, and equally as important, is he or is he not going to be in the MCU? Because there seems to be some disqualifying factors here. Comments made by Bob Iger seem to suggest that he won't let R-rated stuff be in the MCU. So what does that mean? In that environment, Rob, the other day, I believe it was Paul Wernick, who's one of the writers of Deadpool, was asked about what's going on, and he said basically this. He said two things. He said, number one, we've been told by Marvel that we will be allowed to make Deadpool rated R. So there's that. They've been told, the writers of Deadpool have been told that they're going to be cleared to make Deadpool 3 and write it rated R. So that's one question down.
I mean, that's pretty exciting.
That's exciting. That's great. But that raises the second question then. Will he or will he not be in the MCU? And his answer to that was basically, we don't know. He said, the hope, this is what Paul said, we hope Marvel will let us play in their MCU sandbox a little bit, but we don't know.
Right.
So it sounds like there is going to be another Deadpool movie, which none of us really ever had any doubt about. There's going to be another Deadpool movie. It sounds like it's going to be rated R, but as far as his fate as to whether or not he'll actually be in the MCU or outside of the MCU, seems like it's still a little bit of a question. Rob, you know, we speculated about this a lot over the past year.
Yeah.
A lot of us as fans have been speculating about this over the past year. In light of the newest comments, where's Deadpool going to end up? Is he going to be an active, thriving member in the MCU like a Doctor Strange, like a War Machine, like like you name any of the other ones? Or is he going to be somebody that lives outside the MCU and in his own little R-rated pocket? How do you see this now that you've heard these comments? How do you think this is all going to shake out?
Well, look, I think as a company, Disney has to be very careful about what they're going to do with Deadpool, because obviously Disney's brand is a family brand. The MCU, they've managed to make everybody everywhere love the MCU. Deadpool as a R-rated character transcends or transgresses against all of those things.
Transcends or transgresses, I like that.
Yeah, both of them. And I think that it's a very, here's what I think. I think they would go and make an R-rated Deadpool movie. They would show the top brass at Disney, who would be mortified. And they'd be like, we can't release this movie. You know, look at all the bloodletting and the jokes and the bad taste and the really black humor. And it's how many people die in this film, and how many jokes about International Women's Day are going to be made? I mean, I think they're really going to have to think long and hard before they do it. Now, as we all know, the money, you're talking over $1.5 billion for 2 movies. No one, I'm sure it'll make even more money with Disney's marketing behind it, but they're going to have to be very careful as a company what they do. So I do think that while they are going to, I think they're going to continue to keep Deadpool unto himself in his own universe. But when necessary, they're going to use him in, you know, we talked about who's going to be the new Stan Lee cameo. Wouldn't it be interesting if Deadpool did? You know, that Deadpool would cameo in these MCU movies.
I've seen some people suggest that before.
You know, and maybe not cameo the way Stan Lee does, but have interesting interactions. So you always are reminded that he's there. And we certainly know Ryan Reynolds would be game. But
now, this brings up the nightmare of Bob Iger, though. Bob Iger's nightmare is this. This is because, you know, Bob Iger, his number one thing is his community, his consumers, his customers. He puts them above everything else. And here is Bob Iger's nightmare. Bob Iger's nightmare is mom takes kid to see Avengers. And there's Deadpool in Avengers.
Yeah.
And now you got an R-rated Deadpool movie coming out. It causes confusion. It's going to upset some of his customers, blah, 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 blah. Now, here's the problem. We as adults, and I use that term loosely.
Please do.
As adults, we seem to think that us, son, this is what that we kind of think of. So we think, well, it makes sense to me. I don't care if you make an R-rated Deadpool, but we're not thinking. That's why Bob Iger is smarter than us. That's why he's so much smarter than we are, because he does think big picture. And I know that's his. I think that's the only thing that is preventing him from going, yeah, hell, why not? Make a bunch of R-rated Deadpool movies and then have him come into some PG-13 MCU stuff. But that's the thing that's stopping him. And I'll tell you what, I think this right now, and I might change my mind on this, but I think this right now. I think if they were going to let Deadpool full-fledged be in the MCU and be rated R, we would have heard it by now. The fact that the writers themselves are still saying, we don't know what they're going to let us do with them as far as MCU goes. The fact that that's still the case, it means the topic is still open, but I just feel like if Bob was going to let that happen, he would have pulled the trigger on it by now, no pun intended, and let it happen. So I slightly feel like that's what you described as what's going to happen. I think we're going to get R-rated Deadpool, and he won't be crossing over with the MCU. Yeah. I think. But hey, remember, just in April, Alan Horn said Fox is going to make Deadpool movies, and that's changed. So anything can change, I guess. Anything can change. Question is, guys, what do you think is going to ultimately happen? Not what do you want to have happen. That's a separate question. What do you think Disney is ultimately going to do with Deadpool? He's already got the two highest grossing R-rated films of all time are Deadpool films. Clearly, Deadpool does not need the MCU, right? I mean, that's fair to say. Deadpool clearly does not need the MCU, the two highest grossing R-rated films of all time. But it could be fun. What do you think they're going to do with it? Jump into the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, we've got a little bit of time to take some live questions that you guys have been firing in. So let's jump over and get to those right now. First live question comes to us from Casinema Reviews, who writes, who in Star Wars would handle the Infinity Gauntlet? Ooh. I only see 3 people could handle the Infinity Gauntlet. Lord Vader would be able to handle the Infinity Gauntlet, and the Emperor would be able to handle the Infinity Gauntlet, and Yoda. Honestly, I don't think anybody else. Rob, what do you think?
I think I was thinking the exact same thing.
Yep, that trio, nobody else. Luke might be like younger Luke might be like Star-Lord, who can hold one of the stones for a few minutes. But then maybe Luke in the newer movies, maybe he could have handled the gauntlet as well. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. All right. Garrett Couch writes, caught up on Injustice 2 comics, you'll weep. Yes. I haven't read everything yet, but I have caught up on the Injustice 2 comics. Again, Injustice 1, Rob, Injustice Year 1 is the finest writing in a comic book I've read in years. I just thought it was remarkably good. I mean, this is such an incredible series and such an incredible concept. But anybody can come up with a neat concept. Can you execute it into a truly compelling story? And I'll tell you what, considering this is based on a video game, bravo for what they did. Have you had a chance to read like Year 1 or Year 2 or any of that?
Yeah, no, I read yes. And I'm a big fan of those comics. And, the reason I even read those comics was because of the video game, the cutscene or the preview scene that Tim Miller directed. And I was like, wow. Because I was like, do I want to read a video game tie-in thing? Like, how good could it be? I'm snobby about my comics.
I thought the same thing. And then I bought the first issue digitally because I think they were giving the first issue away for free. So like whatever, I downloaded it and I read it. I'm like, oh my God. And I was on my way for a business trip, I think to New York. So I'm in the airport and I'm reading the next one. And then my plane is coming like 20 minutes. So I download the next 20 things. And the whole flight there. And then as soon as I got there, I went straight to my hotel and just read and then reread it. Couldn't believe it. I loved it so much. All right. Anyway, Ben Rayner writes, the premiere of Arrow was great. Love letters to season 1. It very much was. Loved the returns and loved the nods. And it was great. Having Moira back was great. Having Tommy back was great. Everything about that episode, except for those stupid, useless flash forwards with his dummy kids. With Oliver's stupid, dummy kids. Yeah. I cannot stand, I couldn't stand it last season. I can't stand it this season. Especially when you got some really good stuff going on with Oliver, the guy who the show is named after. Especially you got some great stuff going on with him and they interrupted for this stupid stuff with his stupid kids. Oliver should have had a vasectomy or something. I don't know. It's just it's so frustrating considering how great all the other stuff in the episode was. And I haven't said that about an Arrow episode a lot in the last few years. All right, Magic K writes, Martin Scorsese comment maybe is ad for Irishman. Rob, there are some people who believe all publicity is good publicity. To which I would say, ask Harvey Weinstein if that's the case. Not all publicity is good publicity, my friends. And I don't know. I honestly don't. If if Irishman was being a theatrically released film, I think these comments could have hurt the turnout. I'm not saying it would have crushed the turnout or killed the turnout, but I think, I don't think if this is a big marketing stunt, I don't think it's working out the way they wanted it to.
No.
What do you think?
No, I don't. Especially think I still am betting that Irishman's going to win Best Picture. Obviously I haven't seen all the movies this year, but yeah, probably not. And I also think that
I mean, other than Six Underground, right? Six Underground.
But I don't. I can't tell you how excited I am for Six Underground. Doesn't it like debut this week?
Dude, it's on Netflix. Netflix never lets us know when anything is happening. I don't know when it's coming.
What I do love, I have a new thing, John. I call it the Netflix buzz. Oh. And it's like I turn on Netflix and it comes on my main screen, whatever, like the brand new thing. And if it happens to be whatever it was I was interested in seeing, that fills my screen when I first turn Netflix on. I'm like, ooh, I get the Netflix buzz. And I'm waiting to get that with Six Underground. And of course, Elizabeth's like, what is this garbage you're going to watch? I go, no, it's the new Michael Bay movie. And she'll walk out of the room.
No, don't say that. Say it's from the writers of
Deadpool.
There you go. They'll get on board. Tell her it's the writers of the new Clue movie coming.
Right.
Remember they're doing a new Clue?
Yeah, they're doing a new Clue movie. But
Anne is beside herself with excitement for that one. She really is.
I mean, I do love my Netflix buzz. And I am really, really excited for The Irishman. I really, really am.
I'm looking forward to seeing it. All right. Next up, Clay Woodley writes, what are your thoughts on Vin Diesel's upcoming Bloodshot movie? I think it has potential. I just hope it's rated R. I mean, I don't really care if it's rated R or not. If it is, cool. If it's not, no problem. Honestly, I have no thoughts on it right now. Like, I really don't. It's so non-manifested to me right now that's very, very much out of mind for me. What do you think?
I don't even believe it's real until I see a trailer. We've been hearing about it for a long time. Like, when did they stop shooting it? 1987? I mean, it's so something weird. Like but it is part of the Valiant universe. Yeah. And if it does well, we might see this might be the dawning of the Valiant cinematic universe. And that could be exciting if it's done well.
Yeah, I was going to say it's right up there with his upcoming Hannibal movie. Remember Vin Diesel was trying to get that Hannibal movie made for like 10 years?
Yeah.
We'll see. I mean, look, it would be great if it does. And I love me some Vin Diesel. Everybody knows this. I love Vin Diesel. So I would like to see it. I'm just really not quite sure where they're at.
My favorite Furion, man.
Favorite Furion. Suthius writes, please get matching rings and open each show with a catchy, cheesy, heroic line while touching each other's Schwartzes towards the camera. Go weekly hero. Well, Suthius, no, just no. It's not going to happen. We're not going to do that. Stop trying to make that a thing. Fetch is never going to be a thing. That is never going to be a thing. All I think about is the Wonder Twins, and I don't want to ever think about the Wonder Twins. I never want to think about the Wonder Twins. Do you remember a couple years ago, Rob? Somebody pranked that hoax that somebody printed up a bunch of fake Wonder Twin posters.
Yeah.
And it was you didn't see the Wonder Twins, it's just two hands moving towards each other. And it says powers activate on it. And it looked legit. I mean, all of us realized, of course it wasn't, but it looked legit. And a lot of people thought, oh my God, Warner Brothers is making a Wonder Twin powers. No.
What if you did a Wonder Twins movie like Joker?
Where it's so dark. The brother and sister have an incestuous relationship.
Everyone's got a hot cousin.
That got dark really fast. Okay, let's move on here. Next one up. Amir B writes, seeing the full 6-minute clip of Marty's comments in the context he was discussing them, I believe his statements are sadly blown out of proportion again. Again, I saw well, let me rephrase. I read the full transcript. But again, he later qualifies it again. He is constantly referring to these things as circuses, as theme parks, as invaders, as whatever. And I read all the other things, and while those create a greater context, Rob, to me, it did not change the context. Like sometimes you read surrounding information and it changes the context of the little bit of information you're thinking about. This expanded the context of it, but I didn't see or read anything in his fuller discourse that suggested a change of context of anything he was saying. You know, it's not like he says, Circus movies are fantastic, and I love them. And invaders, we need invaders. We need good films invading our cinemas. If he said that earlier, then it changes the context of when he calls Marvel movies invading our cinemas. That changes the context. But there's nothing in an expanded thing that I saw at any rate that changes the context of his comments, unless I'm forgetting something or overlooked something, which is possible, I suppose. I suppose that's possible. All right, next up here. Vault of the Future writes, in order of release, number 1, Shang-Chi. 2, Doctor Strange 2, number 3, Spider-Man 3, number 4, Thor 4. I love the poetic nature of that. Which of you might have? Oh, I never thought about Shang-Chi is the first of the series. Doctor Strange is the second. Spider-Man is the third, and Thor is the fourth, and it's coming out in that order. I never really thought. I don't think that was. I don't think that for a second that was done on purpose. But I didn't even think of it. That's a very, very astute observation, Vault of the Future. I like that. Which one are you most hyped for? Man, I'll tell you what. There are strong arguments for hype for all 4 of those movies. Thor, Taika Waititi returns. You got to be hyped for that. Doctor Strange, love the first one. Got to be hyped for that. The return of Spider-Man into the MCU. You got to be hyped for that. Shang-Chi, the first movie, the first Marvel movie with an Asian lead and of such a character, like a more obscure character like that. Super excited about that. For me, Rob, I think right now, and if you ask me next week, I might change my mind. Right now, I got to lean Shang-Chi. I think, honestly, right now, I am actually most excited for Shang-Chi at the moment. I'm excited for all of them, but I think I'm most excited for that one, probably because it's got the most unknown factor to it, which is kind of appealing to me. What do you think?
I'm with you 100%. I mean, I've been a Shang-Chi fan. I read the Doug Bench, Paul Gulacy comics when I was a kid. I love those comics. I love that run. I've liked that character. Shang-Chi has been an Avenger. So it's going to be really interesting to see. And obviously they've been, even all the way back to Iron Man 3, they've been sort of layering in this idea. I mean, of the Mandarin. Well, at least they did in that movie and then in the one shot. So it's going to be really interesting to see what they do with all of it. And adding a martial arts vibe to the MCU, I can't wait. I'm really excited. I'm with you 100% because, like you said, mostly it's new. Like, how are they going to do that? Whenever Marvel adds something new to the pantheon of their films, I'm really excited for Shang-Chi. But that's not to say, I got to tell you, John, I get all Ghibli when I think about Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. With Scarlet Witch. I'm Ghibli, dude.
All right, let's move on here. Next up is RA's Reviews writes, Jonah Hill is out of Batman, wanted too much cash. I just read that as Rob was making his answer, and I brought it up. And yes, according to, I'm on Entertainment Tonight's website right now. This came out 20 minutes ago. Jonah Hill seems to no longer be in talks. According to Deadline, claims that those talks that Jonah Hill was having to be in the film have broken down. While Hill had been under consideration to play either Riddler or Penguin, producers are reportedly already exploring other candidates. There seems to be renewed interest in Warner Brothers superhero movies following the critical success of Joker, blah, blah, blah. So, while it looks like Jeffrey Wright is still in, it seems like Jonah Hill is out. Now, listen, I'll tell you what. Jonah Hill is not a name that would have been on my list to put into a Batman movie.
Right.
But once they said his name, I was like, you know what? Two-time Academy Award nominated actor. So I was down for it. Never would have been on my list to put him in. But then when they said his name, I'm like, you know what? Super good actor. He's really evolved a lot. Sure, I'm all for it. I'm going to be honest with you, though. I'm not going to lose any sleep that Jonah Hill's not going to be in this Batman movie. If the report is correct, I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. I mean, if he was in it, I'm all for it. But if he's not, I'm actually not going to lose any sleep. Like, if all of a sudden they said Jeffrey Wright was out, I'm going to lose sleep over that as a Batman fan. I'm going to lose sleep. I'm not going to lose any sleep over Jonah Hill not being there. Right. I was all for it. But if he's not there, what's your take on it, Rob?
I don't mind. I'm like you. I mean, the Penguin has never been my favorite character as depicted on screen anyway. I mean, whether it was Burgess Meredith or, whether it was Danny DeVito, if that's who he was going to play. But again, I don't know. I have no sense of what kind of take we're going to get with the characters. Maybe Josh Gad will get that Penguin shot he's been looking for. I mean, I don't know. I trust in the filmmakers. I trust in Matt Reeves and his collaborators to give us the best Batman film. I'm excited about it. I think look, they just keep raising the bar. as more and more comic book films come out, the bar keeps getting raised, even with all of the supreme fantastical goofiness of Aquaman. I mean, how are you topping that? And Joker now, and Logan, and even Shazam. I mean, they keep raising the bar. So I expect a great deal from Batman. And if Jonah Hill doesn't want to go along for the ride, well, they should find somebody who will.
All right, next up here, we've got Evelyn writes, I'm really loving Flash so far, especially episode 2. Yeah, I'm enjoying Flash so far. Again, I really like that they already seem to be tying into the overall crossover Crisis storyline. That seems to be the main crux of what they're doing. I didn't love episode 1, but I liked it. I did quite enjoy episode 2, though. They've gotten more into the dealing with the death of their daughter and all that kind of stuff. That's been very good. Having, the Jay Garrett Flash come back into the second one was really cool. I like that. So yeah, I like the start they're off to. That's my favorite start of any Flash season, but I think they're off to a pretty good start. AJ Lancaster writes, breaking news, Leaf Phoenix returning as Superboy. I don't even know who Leaf Phoenix is. I'm assuming he played Superboy in something. I don't know. He's
Joaquin's younger brother.
Is he really?
Yeah.
So he's Rivers? So there were 3 Phoenix brothers?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't.
And a sister.
Oh, I didn't know that. There you go. I just knew about River and Joaquin. That's interesting to know. All right, Echo Base Network writes, hail imagination connoisseurs. Is there any new news updates on what Disney is doing with X-Men and Fantastic Four? I hope they don't get rid of the name X-Men after past comments from Victoria Alonso. Oh, I can guarantee you Disney's not getting rid of the name X-Men.
No.
They're not getting rid of the name X-Men. But listen, it goes back to what we said, Rob, when the Disney and Fox deal was happening. Everybody's saying, bet you X-Men's going to be in Endgame. Bet you Fantastic Four is going to pop up in the post-credits of Endgame. And what have we been reminding everybody of? Kevin Feige's already said he's got his next 5 years planned out. Now, that doesn't mean he can't make a little room if he wants to. But what he was clearly telling us, and I've been saying this from the beginning, what Kevin Feige has clearly been telling us, don't hold your breath as to when we're going to get X-Men or Fantastic Four.
Right.
Kevin Feige has never rushed anything. Anything. He is meticulous. He takes his time. And when the time is right and everything else is the way it should be, he strikes with a new character, a new movie, whatever. He ain't going to rush it. Like, I know a lot of the fans are like, oh my God, they're in X-Men. Quick, make another X-Men movie right now. Ah! Like, that's what a lot of fans have been like. And that's cool. I understand the enthusiasm. But Feige has been very clear. Chill out. Now, that's not to say we might not get an X-Men appearance or a cameo or something in a year or whatever. But as of right now, I think there's a lot of stuff. Even Kevin Feige doesn't know what he's going to do with it yet. He's got several years of films already laid out. So at this point, I haven't heard anything, but I haven't expected to hear anything yet. And that's kind of what Kevin Feige told us. Don't expect anything for a while. So I don't know, Rob, how would you respond to that?
Look, I agree with you. I'm still thinking that they're going to make Avengers versus X-Men. I think that's how they're going to introduce. I still
think that's crazy.
I think they're going to introduce the X-Men that way. And I think it's going to be, because it would make people go bananas. And the X-Men are introduced. It'll be, look, in comic books, it's a long-standing trope that you have two heroes who misunderstand each other fight. Yep. It happens in all these comics. I think they're going to take that trope and they're going to do it writ large on the big screen. And I think they're going to introduce because we all know who the X-Men are.
We don't.
Well, no, I know not in the MCU, but they're going to bring it.
This is a brand new X-Men that they haven't introduced.
I understand, but we have enough of an understanding of the characters that if they were shown up as villains or for some reason fighting the Avengers or something, you don't have to explain it. Just bring them on and leave us all breathless, and then back into it with another movie. They become the villains. They become the big bads. Who's not going to go see that? If they announce Avengers versus X-Men, people would go nuts.
Let's see. Let me think about that for a second. New characters we haven't had in this universe yet. Let's introduce them in a versus type of setup, and everybody will go mad. Oh yeah, they tried that with Batman versus Superman. They never established Batman in that universe. They tried to introduce him in a versus setup already, and that didn't work. I liked the movie. I mean, I liked it, but it underperformed.
They didn't have Kevin Feige.
It doesn't matter. You can't say like, well, look, everybody knows Batman, but they still needed to give Batman a film first, establish him first, then put him in this thing against Superman. I think that would have played out a lot better. Now, look, I'm the same guy, Rob. I'm the guy, just to show the weakness in my own argument. I'm the guy who said, I think they could have started the DCEU just with Justice League. I literally thought they could have come out of the gate with Justice League. But I don't think they could have come out of the gate with Justice League versus Titans, I don't think, I think, and when you look at Kevin Feige's track record, Kevin Feige doesn't just pull Civil War out of his ass. He waits till everybody's established, and then he introduced, who did he introduce? He introduced Black Panther, one character, brought him along in there, and introduced him there in the midst of a ton of other characters that were already established. And I just think it would be against the nature of Kevin Feige to introduce X-Men in a big climax film of like an X-Men versus Avengers. I just don't think that's consistent with his philosophy. But you think he could?
I think he could. I have to tell you, this new Jonathan Hickman run of Powers of X and House of X, they've actually solved the problem. If you wanted to bring Magneto back as a Holocaust survivor, they figured it out. If you did what you got to read this. If you don't read any other comic this year, you've got to read when they're released. I'll get a few for Christmas. It's coming out in December. You've got to read.
I can just buy it digitally. I'll just download it onto my iPad.
Just read it. It's first of all, it's an incredible science fiction story, but it opens up the X-Men universe to very interesting things. And I was thinking the whole time as I'm reading it, I'm like, they could really do something with this in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And it would be bonkers, but it's pretty damn cool. So.
Okay, let's keep moving on here. That's House of X. All right, Ben Rayner writes, with the ending of Arrow and Earth 2, does that mean Harry Wells is gone? Other than Eobard Thawne from season 1, that season 2 Wells is my favorite. I honestly don't know. I don't know. I haven't really thought about it. This is part of the reason why I think multiverse stuff is all stupid bullshit. But honestly, Ben, I don't know. But I'll say this. I have liked just about every incarnation of Wells in their own way. I even got it. At first I was annoyed by the Sherlock Holmes Wells. I was a little annoyed, but I thought it was stupid at first. But I've got to tell you what, even that Wells started to grow on me. And at some point, I just think the actor, Good Canadian Kid is the actor who plays Wells. He just plays them in such a way that I start to get attached to all of them. I really do. Now, my favorite Wells is still season 1 Wells, when he's actually secretly Eobard Thawne, but that was my favorite one. But what the fate of all those things are, honestly, Ben, at this point, I have no idea. All right. A fan of Peanuts sends in a really big super chat. Thank you, fan of Peanuts, for supporting the channel on that level. How crazy fun would it be, guys, one day if we get individual virtual reality theater-like experiences in our own room to walk around as a part of the movie-going experience? One day we might fly like Superman. What if? I'll tell you what, fan, that sounds awful. That sounds awful to me. Now, it sounds cool as a nifty lark, as something cool to sit down in your thing. Like, on my Oculus Quest, there's this app I have on my Oculus Quest downstairs. That's a movie theater. And I can even bring up YouTube videos. And it looks like I'm in a movie theater looking at a giant screen with that. It's a cool little lark. But I don't want things to move us more and more towards the world that Wall-E lived in, where people they just sit in their chairs all day. I hate the notion of movies no longer being truly social experiences. But John, we'll be connected together like on Facebook chat. No. I want to go to a real movie theater with real people and have real human interaction. So while there's something like that sounds like a cool little gimmick at first, I'll be honest with you, I don't want that. To me, that's just us more and more becoming those fat people in Wall-E where we're just all sitting in our hover chairs all day. I don't want to be that. I want real human interaction. I want our culture and our society to have people who have actual social skills, not keyboard idiot warriors. That's what I want. So that fan of Peanuts actually sounds a little bit to me like a bit of a nightmare. A little bit, but I don't know. Rob, what do you think?
I think you're right. But I mean, look, we're going to get virtual worlds and things coming down the pike that are going to be pretty interesting. And I'm looking forward to the potentiality of what can come down the pike. But I'm with you. Like, I love going to movie theaters. I love seeing an audience full of people. I love seeing the back of people's heads when they laugh in the dark. I mean, I want to feel a real, like, John, I don't know if you feel this way, but when we go see movies, when we laugh at the same things, I mean, I feel a connection to people I don't know. I feel a connection to the rest of humanity. If we collectively,
absolutely,
yeah, you know, and it makes you feel like even at the loneliest I've ever been in my life, which isn't much, I have to be honest. I haven't been. I don't get really lonely, but I've gone to the movie theater sometimes, and it never fails to pick me up. You know, when you feel some, even if it's one other person that laughs at something you laugh, you feel a connection to a random stranger just because you realize you both have the same sense of humor. And I don't want that to go away, although I wouldn't mind going into some virtual movie theater where people from all over the world, like you could, like the United Nations of theaters, and there could somehow virtually recreate the experience, and I'd be able to sit around with people from all over the world. I think that would be kind of neat.
I think as a gimmick and as a lark, but I still want, like, for instance, for all the times that I watched Infinity War at home, it was never as good as when I saw it in the theater.
When we saw, that was one of the greatest movie-going experiences of my life, was sitting in a theater with those people and sitting next to Schnepp. I mean, it was just it was great. And you're right. I mean, I like hearing people I like hearing the cracking of popcorn, and I like hearing somebody sucking up the last drop of cola from their container. It doesn't interfere with me because I know that's
the movie theater.
It is the movie. I like it, man.
But you know, for the occasional gaggy lark, yeah. I'm just afraid that like we would do what we often do with cool new things, is that we would abuse it and then use it as another excuse to become socially awkward and isolated people. And
no doubt.
Yeah. And that's my one thing that I'm a little bit worried about. All right. Suthius writes, I pay no mind. Old people say silly things a lot. I don't know. Like, guys like Scorsese often say really, really brilliant things. So I wouldn't write him off just because he's older than you. He's actually a lot smarter than me, and he's a lot smarter than you. But just because you're smart doesn't mean you always say the right things. Tyler for Is writes, hi. With Joker having so much success, how would you feel about Warner doing more DC villain standalone films? I think Riddler would be fantastic. I'll be honest with you, my mind's changed a little bit. At first I thought, man, they got to give more characters like this the treatment. And you know what's one of the things that really started to change my mind, Rob? Watching that stupid Saturday Night Live Grouch sketch.
Right. I know what you mean.
Because I realized, as funny as that sketch is hilarious, by the way, if you haven't seen it. But I just realized, so what? We just want them to do copy, step, repeat now just with other villains? Let's just do it. This was a unique movie. It was a unique movie. Now just trying to bastardize it and copy and paste and step and repeat and just do it again just with a different villain. I see, at first I thought, yeah. But now that I think about it, and oddly enough, after watching that Grouch thing, I'm like, you know what? No. Keep the specialness of the Joker movie. That's what made it unique. Anything else I'm just going to feel like is going to be a poor man's attempt to make a bad copy. So, but then again, I don't know, Rob. My mind might be different on that tomorrow. What do you think?
Well, it depends on the villain, really. I mean, the thing about the Joker is he's so singular in his he's so distinct. And when you think about like Lex Luthor, like, okay, could you do a movie about President Luthor, or what is it like to run LexCorp or something like that? Joker is unique, and the problems that he has as depicted in Todd Phillips's movie are very resonant in our world today, and it has a lot to say. I just don't know if you're right. You can duplicate that success. So at first I was thinking that could be really cool, but then I'm like, I don't know. So I think I'm with you. I think Joker's uniqueness is not something, the first impulse, let's go make a bunch of villain movies like Joker. That's always, it seems good at first, but then in practice, I don't think it's such a good idea.
You know what it reminds me of? Did you see It Chapter 2?
Yeah.
Okay. A little bit of a spoiler warning for any of you guys who haven't, but if you cared about It Chapter 2, you probably would have seen it by now. But I'm just going to give you a bit of a spoiler warning here, okay? A little bit of a spoiler warning for Chapter 2. Here's what I'm worried about, Rob, for something like more Joker movies. One of the worst things about this new It movie was they hit that part of the movie where all the kids, well, now they're grown-ups, all split up, and they all have their own individual little quest to have, right?
Yep.
And they all went through the exact same thing in a different way, but the exact same thing. Oh, I ended up in a place of nostalgia. Oh no, something horrible from a past memory's coming up. Oh no, there's it. Oh no, oh, now I'm okay. And then they did it again with the next character. And then they did it again with the next character.
Yeah.
And then they did it again and again until they went through all 5. And before you knew it, they wasted 45 minutes of screen time on a step and repeat thing. And my fear is that while there'll be detailed differences, just like there were with each member of the Losers Club, my fear would then become that that's what it would feel like. It would feel like It Chapter 2 is like, okay, now let's go through the process with Riddler. Okay, now let's go through the process with Penguin. And I'm not saying that's what would happen, but I feel like Joker was such a unique movie, and Joker is such a unique character that type of movie really lent itself well to that character. And I don't know if you can just take that shade of paint and slap it on any wall. I just don't know.
I agree with you 100%. But I think the lesson to be taken away is the fact that you can use a character that's appeared in comic books and tell a story about that character that is firmly set within the real world, that leaves the comic book tropes behind. I mean, I'm thinking like you could do a Lex Luthor movie, but make it like Steve Jobs. I mean, Steve Jobs was already made, but you could do it along those lines, or maybe even something like the Social Network, where the Jesse Eisenberg character, where Mark Zuckerberg in the Social Network is actually young Lex Luthor, literally played by Jesse Eisenberg. No, but something like that.
That would be crossing the streams.
You know what? But what I mean is something that is a real world take on a fictional comic book character, because that's really what Joker was. And, you know, it had ties with Thomas Wayne, and we did see young Bruce and all that. But really, it was a story about real world concerns, and there was none of the fantastical in it. You know, the Joker didn't have some boutonniere that shot acid or whatever, you know, or something like that. And I think that that's something we could see, but it would have to be very different than the Joker. But
all right.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the next one here. The next one comes to us from Cat Comics, who writes, "It's kind of sad that legends like Scorsese feel the need to challenge the evolution of the film industry. Then again, isn't this kind of reaction that they face bringing their groundbreaking projects to the big screen?" Well, I mean, look, let me say this, though, Cat. I think it is beholden to veterans of the film game to raise alarms if they see bad trends in movies. Like, if you see for those of you who saw the movie Idiocracy, if we see our nation and our world descending into idiocracy,
we are.
You should raise the flag and raise alarms. And don't go, oh, don't just be sour about the evolution of politics. No, there are problems. And I would say this, if there was statistical empirical data that backed up the things that Martin Scorsese was saying, like, there's not room for any other types of movies. Really? The 34 movies coming out this month, one of them is a comic book movie. Tell me again how there's not making any other movies and how there's not making room for it. If there was any empirical data to back up the stuff that Scorsese was saying, and not just an ominous fear of dread,
right?
Because that's what this is all based on, an ominous fear of dread. Fear and dread, I should say. If there was factual stuff here that really did numerically suggest, yeah, other movies aren't getting made. Only 12 movies came out last month, and 7 of them were superhero movies. Okay, then there's something. But when it's all based on fear, and it's all based on the fact that something that was so outside of his experience, because the thing, Rob, that you and I have been waiting decades for, it seems like Scorsese has been dreading decades about. The coming of a new genre that is not in his wheelhouse. And as long as that's the case, it makes me a little bit worried. I don't know. What do you think about that?
No, I think you're absolutely right. I don't know necessarily. What's funny to me is Scorsese has always been a fan of genre movies. He's always defended. He's always found, whereas other people might not have found something worthwhile. He's always been a staunch defender of genre cinema. And it's strange to me that he doesn't see superheroes as a logical extension of that genre. And I do think it's because it comes down to the fact that there's money. Like Scorsese is always going to say, yes, the studio should have spent the money on The Irishman and promoted it. That's what culture is all about. And I think in a way, when you have, look, there's an enormous amount of money that has been gobbled up by comic book movies. There's no doubt. But on the other hand, now we live in a world where it's time for this genre to shine. And you have so many people around the world that are so delighted by these movies. It brings families together, fathers and sons, mothers and daughters. They can get excited to go see whether it's Captain Marvel or Endgame or Shazam or whatever. It makes people excited about movies. And look, no one's just going to watch comic book movies forever. Eventually, someone's going to want to, you know, how many people have gone to pick up Taxi Driver and King of Comedy because of Joker?
Many.
And this is a good thing. You know, movies and genres, and we can all bitch and moan and complain about stuff, but you know what? If you like movies, if you like one kind of movie, it's going to lead you to another kind of movie. I didn't know I liked classical music. I heard the score for Star Wars. I got the soundtrack album when I was 10 years old. I was like, is there anything else like this? And my mom said to me, well, you know, that music kind of sounds like Beethoven. And I'm like, well, you mean dun, 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 dun. My mom's like, well, yeah, but he has a whole bunch of music, and I have all these Beethoven records. I'm like, you've never played them. I'm 10. You've never played a Beethoven record ever. She's like, well, you can play them. And so I went and was listening to like Beethoven's 7th and Beethoven's 9th. And I was listening to classical music because of the Star Wars soundtrack. And you just never know where these things are going to lead people.
And I just going back to statistics again for a second. And again, fear that the comic book movies taking over everything. There's no room for any other movies anymore. Let's look at 2020. 2020 is coming. There are going to be 50. I didn't know if I have a reliable source. I have a reliable source that tells me that 2020 is going to have 52 weeks in it.
No way.
Breaking story, breaking news. Reliable, one of my insider sources of the John Campea Show lets me know that there are going to be 52 weeks in 2020. On average, not every week will be the same, but on average, 3 wide release films each week. Not even counting limited release films. 3 wide release films each week will be released in those 52 weeks. Out of those 52 weeks, you know how many of those weeks will have a single comic book movie opening up?
So you got 156 movies total.
Yeah. Out of 52 weeks, 8. 5% roughly of wide release movies that are coming out in 2020. 5% of them are going to be thinking about 12%, 13% of the weekends. Only 13% of weekends at the movie theater will see a comic book movie opening. Don't talk to me about how comic book movies are shoving out all the other movies and no other movies are being made and no other movies are taking up theater screens. I'm sorry, the data doesn't lie. The numbers don't lie. I don't care what it feels like. The data says like 5% of the movies coming out next year are comic book movies. The other 95% non-comic book movies. So I don't know.
By the way, you know, there's a movie that no one talks about very much called Fast Color that was directed by a woman that's about 3 generations of black women superheroes. Now, it's not based...
I've not heard of this.
It's an original film. I have it up. Would it surprise you to know I own the
It would not surprise me at all, sir.
It's not typical. I mean, it's much more of like a character study. It's much more down to earth, but it's about 3 generations of black women who are also superheroes, who have superpowers. And it's a great little movie. It's called Fast Color, directed by a woman and produced by one of the producers of La La Land.
I got to check this out. All right, listen, we're running out of time here, so let's get through the last few that are here. Daniel Luna writes, MCU theory, Professor Xavier made a deal with S.H.I.E.L.D. where he'll block the mutants' powers before it being Project Exodus. I got to admit, I'm not familiar with what Project Exodus is.
Well, it's basically what it says there. But yeah, I mean, they could use these kinds of things. Like suddenly the mutants haven't known that they're mutants. They introduce Professor Xavier, who then pulls out the veil, and then suddenly they're there, or something like that. It could happen.
The problem with that, though, is it undermines all the mythology of what the X-Men are.
Well, it's true.
A culture of people who for generations have grown up oppressed by the very societies that they live in. You're undermining all of that. Yep. I mean, that's not to say they won't do it. I would just be a little bit worried about that because that seems to be a fundamental underpinning of what the whole mythology about X-Men is. So
no, it's true. You're right.
They could do it, but I'd be worried if they did it. Ruben Saldana writes, do you think Disney is trying to test Kevin Feige's ability to oversee all of Marvel in order to prep for Alan Horn's position? I don't think it's a test. I think it's training.
Right.
I actually think it's training. I think this is a preparatory position. I think they are giving him this position as a preparation for 2.5 years, 3 years down the line when Alan Horn finally gets to actually enjoy himself and go back to retirement that Kevin Feige or Bob Iger pulled him out of. Finally, he's going to get a chance to go back and enjoy himself after doing an amazing job with Disney. I think this thing with Marvel is about giving him real responsibilities, about running an entire organization from top to bottom, which Kevin Feige is not done yet. And I think they are grooming him. I think this is part of his grooming process for taking over Alan Horn. Let me emphasize, I don't know that. I'm not saying I have any insider information on that. I don't know that's a fact, but that's my speculation. What do you think, Rob?
I think you're absolutely right. I mean, it's hard to say how do you train somebody for a studio job, but I do think the fact that him and his lieutenants, people like Louis D'Esposito and stuff, he's got great people around him and a great team in place. And I think he's obviously a visionary. And why not have some synergy there? Like Ike Perlmutter running the rest of Marvel TV, none of that was working, and now we're seeing, I think with Hickman's run on X-Men, we're going to start seeing the comic book division doing really more interesting stuff and really taking the Marvel comics in directions they haven't gone before. And I think they want someone like Feige who really, you remember, he was as John Schnepp used to say, a big sweaty. It's not like he just fell into this position. He worked his way up, man, and he knows this material. So why shouldn't he oversee it? But it's definitely a guy like Kevin Feige should be running a studio, especially a studio like Disney. There's merchandising. They've got their own comics. They've got theme parks. They've got all of this stuff under one brand. And I think what Kevin Feige has shown is how do you manage a very diverse brand that has all different kinds of characters, just like Disney, that has all different kinds of movies that have to be planning in advance, like you said, 5 years in advance. I mean, this is the way studios should be managed, the way that the MCU is being managed, and they want to make sure that Kevin is up to the task. I think absolutely they are. It's training.
All right, next up, Fan of Peanuts writes, who wins, Hulk versus Colossus versus Juggernaut? Well, that's the easiest question of the day. It's Hulk.
Yeah.
Only one of them has a world war named after him. World War Hulk. I mean, it's Hulk. Only one of them did the Illuminati say, you're just too dangerous for this planet. We got to send you off world, son. It's Hulk. Any opposition to that, Rob?
No, I mean, Juggernaut got defeated in Deadpool. It's like, come on.
I'm the Juggernaut, bitch. All right, Xavier Fleming writes, would pay for a Fireman-style 2020 weekly hero calendar starring the gloriously beautiful Robert Meyer Burnett and Canada's most gorgeous John Campea. Here's the problem with that, Xavier, and believe me, I have looked into this. I have looked into this. The problem is we would make too much money. It would just simply make too much money. And when you have a disbalance of the economy can get thrown out of whack. Because if everybody in North America spent all their disposable income on that calendar, and let's face it, that's what would happen. Like if I lift up my shirt right now and showed my nipple, the internet would break. Let's just be clear. The internet would totally break.
Well, it would be kind of funny if you and I went on like a 12-week superhero movie workout and filmed our transformation, and then at the end shot our fireman calendar.
Okay, there we go. All the money.
Because somebody did that. Somebody did one of those superhero workouts, and their results were very impressive.
I wouldn't doubt it. You do a hardcore 12-week workout program. Why not? AJ Lancaster writes, Lee Phoenix is Joaquin. Is Joaquin. He changed his name after he starred in the Superboy TV series in the 90s.
Oh.
Dude has a super crazy backstory. Is that true?
I guess it is. Again, I didn't know that.
I had no idea. I didn't know there was another.
But it makes sense because he was in Parenthood as Lee Phoenix, I think. Ron
Howard's is that Parenthood. His name in there?
I think so. So that makes sense. You're right. I just didn't realize that.
See, I learn something new every day from our viewers. I learn something new every single day from our viewers. All right, last couple of questions here. Patrick Conway writes, say if it's Doctor Strange that goes crazy, not Wanda.
Oh, I like that idea. That it flips the script, but who knows?
Yeah, interesting. All right, Murray Reich writes, did you see the Saturday Night Live skit of Choker? So damn funny.
I didn't see that.
Choker.
I might have been this week. I didn't see it. I only watched a few of the clips on YouTube.
I am wondering if he meant Joker. I'm wondering if he accidentally said Choker, and he meant Joker.
I bet he
if we're talking about Joker, then yes. If we're talking about the Grouch one, oh yes, we talked about that on the show. It was extremely funny.
Yeah.
All right. Last one of the day here. This one comes to us from a fan of Peanuts who writes, I meant more revolutionary interactive experience like full-on Danger Room in X-Men or X-Manor.
Yeah.
The holodeck. Anyway, how about Bryan Cranston as Lex Luthor? I don't care. You know me, fan of Peanuts. When it comes to what do you think of X actor in X role, I don't care. As long as it's a talented actor. Now look, I can tell you this. Bryan Cranston, I can tell you this for a fact. I can tell you this for an absolute fact. They were so close to having Bryan Cranston as Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
He was already getting his costumes designed. Costume designers were already designing and making the Lex Luthor clothing for Bryan Cranston. That was close. It depends on what your iteration, your incarnation of Lex Luthor is. There are some ways you could do Lex Luthor where Bryan Cranston would be totally the wrong guy for it. There are other ways you could do Lex Luthor where it'd be great. That's why I always say I don't really care. I mean, if you announce that he was doing it, great. Just like Jonah Hill. Like, you announce he's doing it? Okay, great. He's a multi-Academy Award nominated actor. Awesome. He's not doing it? Okay, I'm not going to lose any sleep. So X actor and X role things, I really don't care. But if they were to announce it, there are a number of names that would make me excited. That would be one of them, sure. Rob, what about you?
No, I agree. I think Bryan Cranston's great. But again, there's a lot of actors that would be great. I'm really looking forward to seeing Jeremy Irons as Ozymandias in Watchmen. I always thought Jeremy Irons would play it. Well, he'd be European. He'd have to be some Euro trash villain, but like Hans Gruber or Hans Gruber's brother, Simon Gruber. But yeah. Like you, John, I don't really think about what actor would be best for what role. I just want to see the best actor for the role. And usually they do a pretty good job, especially with comic book movies. We always bitch and moan and complain like, that person or that individual or whatever is going to be bad. We complained about Heath Ledger. We complained about Michael Keaton. We complained about everybody. But we haven't complained about Zoe Kravitz, which is nice. I think we're getting better. We're getting smarter. But I like to wait and see. I mean, I don't ever want to I never think about actors in roles, even when I'm working on something that I have a hand in casting. I like to see actors come in and surprise me, or having casting directors or other directors cast people you wouldn't normally think. I liked Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor because I like the interesting young take, the tech genius.
You know what? Oddly enough, I'm not a big Jesse Eisenberg fan. I am myself am what's that?
I lost you? There you go.
Can you not hear me? I myself am not a big Jesse Eisenberg fan. And
I can't hear you, but that's okay.
Oh, you can't hear me?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. That sucks that you can't hear me. Hold on a second. Can you hear me now? No?
No, but you know what? I can read your lips like Hal in 2001.
You can read my lips, so there we go. Well, we're signing off anyway. I'm not a big Jesse Eisenberg fan, but even I liked his Lex Luthor. I like Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor, as a matter of fact. I thought his Lex Luthor was actually pretty good, and I enjoyed him in that. And yeah, so there you go. Anyway, guys, that will do it for us for this installment. My one camera went out, so I had to switch to this other one. I'm not sure. I think I kicked a cable loose. Thanks so much for being here, guys. Don't forget, the Weekly Hero will be back again next week. Make sure you guys come back and join us for that. Thanks so much for being here. My name is John Campea for Robert Meyer Burnett. Until next time,